Relive the thrill of the action.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. What the hell's going on out here?
No idea what's going on, but I am excited.
Every pick, every play, every game-changing moment.
Unbelievable!
This is You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
And it is a great day to be alive here on Westwood One Sports. Chris Mack with you, in for Nick Kostos today here on You Better You Bet, always live inside the Westwood One Sports app, your Odyssey app, as well as across North America on Sirius XM, channel 375. I have a question for you about soccer. Now that the U.S. is out, and we've had 24 hours, a little more than 24 hours to process that. I'll ask you the question, and then I'll give you my answer in just a little bit here on You Better You Bet. We got a lot to talk about. This is one of my favorite times of year, not just because I'm getting ready to go on vacation. Look at me, draw the little humble brag. I'm getting ready to go on vacation. But also because this is the time of year where the old Phil Steele College Football Preview magazine hits the newsstands. Oh, and believe me, with vacation on my horizon, I will be stopping at Barnes & Noble later today to pick up a fresh copy of the Phil Steele College Football Preview magazine, as I do every year, the Bible of college football. And we're lucky enough today, we're going to talk to Phil Steele. He's going to join us 1 hour from now to dig in to the most difficult schedules, the teams that have done the most in the portal and the offseason to improve their rosters, where maybe some coaching changes have created massive shakeups. Maybe like me, he's got a countdown somewhere in the house to LSU's visit to Oxford, Mississippi, because I can't wait for that. But we will talk everything college football with Phil Steele coming up at 10 o'clock. Also, our weekly check-in with Danny Parkins of First Things First on FS1. We'll talk to him not just about the disappointment of U.S. soccer, but also the LeBron sweepstakes that may continue for a while, but sounds like we might be getting closer to at least whittling down the field, which is an important part of the conversation before we get Danny on as well. A lot to get into today. It was a big day in baseball. Hey, Bill in Toronto, I got you, brother. I wouldn't say a whole lot more baseball than LeBron today, but I'd say we're about 50-50 between baseball and LeBron. So Bill in Toronto, yeah. I even got a bet for Bill in Toronto later. Those of you who have no idea who Bill in Toronto is, he called in one day last week, extremely upset that we were talking as much about LeBron as we were and not talking as much about baseball as he wanted us to. So today, for you, Bill in Toronto, we will talk baseball, and we'll do it during the first segment of the show where I like to count down the 5 biggest stories of the day. Let's get things fired up here on Westwood One Sports with the high five.
5.
Oh my, this is deep. You've never seen it. 10 RBIs by a Pirate. Ryan O'Hearn, the first Pirate with a 10 RBI game.
Joe Block on Sportsnet Pittsburgh. Love when he gives us the voice crack. I also love John Wayner in the background going, oh my. That's what it sounds like when you absolutely blast a 3-run shot to give yourself 3 homers and 10 RBIs on the same night. That's what Ryan O'Hearn did for the Pirates last night. More importantly, maybe, it got Paul Skeens his first victory in nearly 2 months, his first in 10 starts. That's how long it's been since Paul Skeens had gotten a victory, or since the Pirates had gotten a victory in a Paul Skeens game, for that matter. So, Skeens may be a little back on track after last night with the help of Ryan O'Hearn, who absolutely went off. The Pirates right there on the outskirts of the NL wildcard race and losing their starting shortstop, rookie Connor Griffin, until September, most likely, with a torn ligament in his left ring finger. That's all specific to the Pirates. Specific to baseball itself, the first 10 RBI game in baseball since Shohei Ohtani did it in September of 2024. We'll get more into Skeens in just a couple of minutes because he was a part of a big day pitching-wise across baseball. But hitting-wise, not just O'Hearn's 10 RBIs. How about Shohei hitting his 300th home run last night for the Dodgers, albeit in a loss to the Rockies? The first player to hit 300 homers and steal 100 bases in his first 9 seasons. Yes, Shohei is still that unicorn. Next.
4.
Novak Djokovic does it one more time on center court at Wimbledon. Five hours and 15 minutes, equaling his longest match ever here at Wimbledon against one Rafael Nadal.
Patrick McEnroe on ESPN yesterday at Wimbledon as Novak Djokovic went 5 hours and 15 minutes to move on to the semis. He'll face defending champ Jannik Sinner in the semis. Equals his longest Wimbledon match of his career, as you heard Patrick mention there on ESPN, the 2018 semifinal against Nadal. His second longest match ever at a major. He went 5 hours and 53 minutes against Nadal way back in the 2012 Aussie Open. You know, we're going to talk a little bit today about how guys towards the end of their careers can keep you engaged in watching something. A little allusion to Lionel Messi there that we'll get into in a little more detail later. But Djokovic just keeps doing it. At 39 now, he may not technically be the best player in the world according to the ATP rankings or anything like that, but I don't think there's anybody who you'd rather watch. Whether you love him, you hate him, you're somewhere in the middle, Novak always makes it interesting. Always makes it, even if you're just a casual sports fan who tunes into tennis for a couple of days this time of year because of Wimbledon, he's one of those guys that when you turn him on and you get to see him on the screen, or you get to make that bucket list trip over to the All England Lawn and Tennis Club chat, strawberries and cream, pip pip, cheerio, you have to sit and watch him. It's like one of those old movies that if you still flip through channels, and some of us still do that, you flip through channels and you see it on, you have to sit there and watch the rest of it regardless of how many times you've seen it. Shawshank Redemption. Like, you have to. Same thing with Djokovic as he advances to the semis. On the women's side, Coco Gauff advanced as well at Wimbledon yesterday. She hadn't won a match on grass in 2 years coming into Wimbledon, but she beat Jessica Pegula onto the semis for her at 22 years old, the youngest woman to reach at least the semis of all 4 slams since Maria Sharapova 15 years ago. Number 3.
3.
And retain their entire core, which is Harden, Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. They didn't have to get any of those players off of their roster. That is a successful offseason.
It's a successful offseason indeed, Brian Windhorst on ESPN's NBA Live yesterday. All kidding aside, the Cavs have set themselves up that if they believe this core can at least get them to the finals, if not win them a championship, they've got it in place. And now they just sit and wait to see what LeBron James decides to do. And I'll let you hear exactly what Shams Charania had to say in less than 20 minutes. He was on Stephen A's show yesterday. But it sounds like Cleveland, Miami, and Philly are the top 3 for LeBron James right now. Which leads me to a question about another team that we discussed yesterday when we played the LeBronchular. LeBron, Bachelor. It sounded good at the time. I'm sorry. That leads me to a question about another team that we considered yesterday when talking about LeBron James in 2026-27 and why they're still handling their offseason the way they are. We'll get into all of that, like I said, in less than 20 minutes, right around 9:25-ish or so here on Westwood One Sports. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos on You Better You Bet. Counting down the 5 biggest stories of the day to start the show as we do. It's called The High Five. Number 2,
2.
Lionel Messi, deflection there, on the way through. And can they line something up here? Argentina. Oh, it's gone in. It's 2-2. And who else? Lionel Messi, the savior for Argentina.
Derek Ray on Fox yesterday during the World Cup, down 2-0 with just a little more than 10 minutes to go. It looked like the defending World Cup champions were done. And then they stormed back, keeping one of the biggest and maybe best stories of the World Cup alive heading into the quarterfinals. Can Messi defend the title in his final World Cup and go back to back? And is it enough? Maybe this is the bigger question. Is it enough to keep the average American sports fan tuned in after more than 40 million of us watched the U.S. fall on their face against Belgium on Monday night? I've got a couple of ideas for storylines that may keep you engaged in the World Cup as we start the quarterfinals tomorrow, because there are at least two that make me say, yeah, I want to see what happens with that. Maybe three, but this time of year it's hard with the third one to get all fired up. Anyway, I'll explain all that to you in a little more than 90 minutes here on Westwood One Sports. Finally, number one.
1.
Swing and a miss. He just matched his career high. 14 strikeouts through 7 innings for Zach Wheeler.
Tom McCarthy on NBC Sportsnet, Philadelphia. It was a day for Zach Wheeler. And really a day for pitching. I called it the night of aces, even though Mizorowski's start for the Brewers happened in the afternoon, the first half of a doubleheader. But listen to these numbers. You had Mizorowski, Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, Zach Wheeler, all starting on the same day. If you love pitching, you loved yesterday. Mizorowski, 7 innings, just 3 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks, 11 strikeouts. I mentioned Skeens earlier. Not a prime Paul Skeens cut, but, a B-side. And better than any of his last 9, and at least he got the W. 6 innings, 8 hits, 2 earned, a walk, only 4 Ks. Skubal, only 5 innings, 5 hits, but just 1 earned run, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. And Wheeler, to cap it all off for the Phils, 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, no free passes, and a career high 14 strikeouts. All told, those 4 aces together, 20 hits over 20 innings, just 3 walks, only 7 earned runs, and 38 strikeouts. I know it's the time of year where as things heat up, the ball starts to jump a little bit more. Chicks dig the long ball. Derby is less than a week away. All that fun stuff. All-star game, yada, yada, offense this, offense that. There's still nothing better in baseball than settling in to watch a game. And this is just a tip for the youngs out there. I know a lot of us, myself included, we consume what baseball we consume mostly in social media clips these days, mostly in highlights. Everything's a little less than 60 seconds. Let me give some advice to the youth of America. Sorry, Bill in Toronto. To the youth of North America. Some advice to you. Sit down and just watch a ball game. It warmed my heart to no end that when my daughter was looking to buy a gift for her boyfriend last week, she asked me to snag her a pair of tickets to a Pirate game. And it's because there's nothing better than just sitting down. At the ballpark is the best experience, but it works at home on TV as well. I did it last night for Skeen's start against the Braves. There is nothing better than sitting down and just consuming a baseball game. Now, I'm not telling you got to go totally old school and sit there and keep score, although that also warms my heart. Just sitting there, keeping score in a scorebook. Oh, it's Gen X thing for me. Angry old man, maybe, but I love keeping score of a baseball game. You don't have to do all that. But at the very least, do yourself the favor of just sitting down and watching a game when there's a quality starter on the mound. And you had, I even mentioned Wrobleski in LA last night because the Dodgers decided to play Little League defense in the 8th and blow a lead against the Rockies. But you could roll him into last night's night of aces as well. Wrobleski to go with Mizorowski, Skeen, Skubal, and of course Wheeler. Sit down and watch a full game, or at least the full start of one of these really good starting pitchers, and I guarantee you it can be just as entertaining as a 16-12 slugfest. Would we call what the Royals and Mets did yesterday a slugfest? No. Probably more like the Little League thing that I mentioned earlier. Sit down and watch a good starting pitcher just blast his way through the lineup the first time, switch some things up ever so slightly the second time around, and then slam on the gas to get through the lineup a third time around. There's nothing better in baseball. No, there isn't. It's even better than watching a home run derby or a 500-foot home run. Those things are fun, yeah. But if you're a real fan of sports and a real fan of baseball, yeah, I'm talking to you, Bill in Toronto. If you're a real fan of baseball, there's nothing better than that. And there's nothing better than what Zach Wheeler did last night for the Phillies. Like I said, 14 Ks over 7 innings. And this is just 10 months for Wheeler, removed from thoracic outlet surgery. I don't know exactly how that works, but it sounds pretty damn invasive. It sounds like something I wouldn't want to have done to me and then have to go out and throw a baseball at 97 miles an hour a few months later. But Wheeler has handled it exceedingly well. He's 9-1 to start the season now. I mentioned the career-high 14 Ks last night. And oh, by the way, this guy's not on the All-Star team? Do better, Major League Baseball. Do better. There's no reason Zach Wheeler should not, even if he's not going to pitch because he's pitching on Sunday. There's no reason Zach Wheeler shouldn't be playing in the All-Star game in his home ballpark. Come on. What are we doing? So it was a good night for the aces around Major League Baseball, even for Wheeler, who doesn't get to go to the All-Star game on Tuesday. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos today here on Westwood One Sports. It is You Better You Bet, as mentioned, live inside your Westwood One Sports app. Take it with you. Also inside the Odyssey app, AUDACY. Maybe like me, I'm going to humble brag it again. You're getting ready to go on vacation. Take either of those or both of those apps, even better, with you so you can stay up to date on everything that's going on while you're getting sunburnt by the beach, hopefully. And of course, we're on Sirius XM channel 375. Coming up, who are the leaders in the LeBron James sweepstakes? And why is one team who's now very obviously on the outside looking in still planning their entire offseason around him? I don't get it. We'll see if we can figure it out, and I'll let you hear exactly what Shams had to say next here on Westwood One Sports.
can go ahead. I already played the thing.
They're really putting the press on in one place to bring LeBron in. I'll tell you exactly what somebody connected with an organization said. Once again, it comes to us courtesy of Rich Paul and Max Kellerman, who are basically doing LeBron marketing on the Game Over podcast. I'll tell you what that was, and I'll also let you hear what Shams Charania had to say to Stephen A. Smith yesterday about where LeBron is at in this process in just a second. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos here today on Westwood One Sports. It is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. This segment sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com. Top of the hour, it's that time of year. The Phil Steele College Football Preview Mag is out on newsstands, and we will talk to Phil about everything that's gone on this offseason in college football at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. Followed up by our weekly chat with Danny Parkins here on You Better You Bet from First Things First on FS1. Talk to him about the disappointment that is U.S. soccer and the Jaylen Brown deal. I don't think I've had a chance to talk to Danny. I don't think Danny has had a chance on this show to express his thoughts on the Jaylen Brown deal. I don't know if he'll react like that little kid. Has everybody seen, by the way, the social media clip that went viral of the little kid in tears over the Jaylen Brown trade? And then he got to meet Jaylen Brown yesterday. I don't think Danny will quite react that way, but I am curious what he thinks of what the hell's going on in Boston. That's all on the way. And somebody really big in the world of women's hoops had something to say yesterday that I think is worth unwrapping just a little bit. That's coming up in 15 minutes here on Westwood One Sports. But who are the leaders in the LeBron sweepstakes? Well, here's what Shams Charania had to say yesterday to Stephen A. Smith.
He's taking their pitch really seriously. And so I look at it when I talk to teams now as kind of a hierarchy of Cleveland, Miami, Philadelphia, and then I think there's some teams on the periphery.
There are teams on the periphery, but the top three right now, according to Shams: Cleveland, Miami, Philadelphia. Okay, so we've established the top three. One of those three is really putting the push on. We'll get to that in a second. What I'd be more curious about right now, because I think this is going to play out for a while. I think this is going to... LeBron's going to want to slow play this, not just for the attention, but so that he can reassure all of us that he really sat and thought about this, right? But clearly at this point, just about, 10 days removed from what was a massive rumor that dropped in the middle of the night 2 weekends ago, is not Golden State. That ship has sailed. And so what exactly is Golden State doing with their offseason? They're still sitting around waiting, holding open a roster spot, holding open some cap space, not in a rush to get Draymond Green's new deal done. None of that. And maybe Draymond Green isn't in a rush to get it done either, because that's what he plans on doing, is going back to Golden State. But why would a team who now I think firmly finds themselves on the outside looking in? We talked to Daryl Johnson, the guru from the Game in San Francisco yesterday. He said Warriors fans are basically pining for LeBron at this point. And I hate to break it to everybody out in the Bay Area, but it's as unlikely now as it's ever been that LeBron is coming to Golden State to play with Steph and Draymond. Is it as unlikely as it's ever been? Now, if LeBron wants to be comfortable, be close to LA, at least by virtue of a private jet, if he wants to be out there on the West Coast still, if he doesn't really want to have any championship expectations, just wants to go on the old rocking chair farewell tour. Hey, Golden State's fine. Have fun with Steph. Steve Kerr's not going to push you too hard at this point. We all know they're in the waning, flickering moments of them being competitive. They're certainly not contenders, even with LeBron. So why is Golden State holding out for LeBron? Hoping, wishing, maybe that he'll choose them. And submarining whatever else they could have done this offseason by just sitting around waiting, hoping, wishing, ooh, maybe he'll call. He's not calling. It's not happening. As for the top three of Cleveland, Miami, and Philly, Cleveland, we know the narrative. We went over this yesterday. The bookending of his career in Cleveland. And maybe have a shot to go on a run. I still think that maxes out at like the Eastern Conference Finals. If everything were to go well. It would somewhat be a solid narrative to end the career in Miami too, right? Get to play with Giannis and Bam. That's fun. But also, even if everything worked out, at best, Eastern Conference Finals, I think. I've said this since their name entered the chat, so to speak. Since Philly made the Jaylen Brown deal and opened the door to the possibility of LeBron going to the Sixers, that is the move if LeBron really wants to win a title. That's essentially exactly what Bob Myers said on Game Over with Rich Paul and Max Kellerman yesterday. He said, quote, if he was here, talking about Philly, I'd say I honestly believe this is your best chance to win. If it's about winning, this is your team. You can win in Philadelphia. He's not wrong, but look at the sales pitch that Philly is putting on. I don't know if Sixers fans, and we talked to Jack Fritz from WIP in Philly yesterday. Oh, you can always go back and listen to it. That's why we got podcasts. Search You Better You Bet wherever you get your podcasts. I don't know if Philly fans are quite yet fully on board with the open courtship of LeBron James. I think they've at least moved from we hate LeBron because Philly hates everybody to, well, we don't hate him anymore. He's not that bad. And I think they're slowly pivoting towards, no, this guy would fit in the lineup and he could really help us. He could be the last piece of the puzzle next to Brown and Maxey and Edgecombe and Embiid. And now you've got surrogates for the organization going out saying on the podcast of LeBron's agent, can we get any closer to this situation? Saying, no, this is the place where you can actually win, LeBron. It's to the point where, and I think all of this is accurate, by the way. I don't think nobody's wrong when they say LeBron's best chance to win is in Philly. At least of the teams that are interested in him that he's also interested in. If we're going to talk about these top three, right, of Cleveland, Miami, and Philly, no one's wrong to say that Philly is his best chance to win a title. So it's getting to the point where if he doesn't choose Philly, aren't we all going to look around at each other and ask, how much does a dude really want to win in what's probably his last year in the NBA? He just wants the vibes. That's all. He just wants to have a good story at the end. If LeBron's, and I do think there's something to the way LeBron was willing to not take a backseat, but, understand that he was option 3 on the Lakers down the stretch before Luka got hurt and before Reeves got hurt, before he had to take over in the Rockets series. I think there's something to the fact that LeBron came to terms with that in LA at the end of last season. That he understands he's not the keystone piece to the championship right now. He's not the cornerstone. He's just that last little piece of the puzzle you got to drop in to finish things off. And if he can get fully on board with that thinking, then Philly is the spot. Go. Play as a part of a true championship caliber lineup when Embiid is healthy. A true championship caliber lineup with Maxey and Brown and Edgecombe and, again, caveat being that he's healthy, Joel Embiid. But if he doesn't choose to go to Philly, what does he really think he has a chance to win in Cleveland or Miami? Let's be honest with each other here, LeBron. You're not winning a championship in Cleveland or Miami. You're just going there for the vibes, for the narrative, for the storybook ending, for the rainbows and unicorns, for the farewell tour, all of that. That's the only reason you're going to Cleveland or Miami at this point. If the real top three, as Shams just said, are Cleveland, Miami, Philly, there's only one of those three options that gives you a legit shot at making a run to a title in your final year. And it has to be Philly. And if he doesn't choose the Sixers, we all have to ask the question, does he really care? Or does he just want to have some fun in his last year and ride off into the sunset? And if all he wants to do in his final year is just have a little fun and ride off into the sunset, then what's the point of it anyway? It's really just about him going town to town, getting a different gift from a different franchise in a different city every third night. The fans giving him a nice standing O before the game, going out, putting up 18, and riding off into the sunset. And I don't think LeBron has yet, although he came to terms with being a third wheel to Luka and Reeves in LA, I don't think he's quite yet come to terms with the fact that he shouldn't be a part of the championship conversation. And if that's the case, LeBron, listen, if you really want to have a shot at winning a title, then Philly has to be the spot. If these are the top three, that's it. And we could talk about, Denver, or Minnesota, or these other places that have been discussed as being on the periphery of the discussion. But if they're not really involved in your thought process at this point, if it's just down to those three, Cleveland, Miami, and Philly, the only way anyone's going to take you as a serious threat to actually do anything in your final season in the NBA is if you go to Philly. Top of the hour, we will talk to Phil Steele, the man who publishes the Bible of college football every summer. It's out on newsstands now. I can't wait to grab a copy before I head out on vacation. It is required plane and beach reading. And then at 10:25 Eastern, 7:25-ish Pacific, we'll talk about this LeBron stuff with Danny Parkins of First Things First on FS1 and ask him what his reaction is to the U.S. men's national team falling on their face on Monday night. But coming up, Caitlin Clark expected back in the lineup tonight. And one of the biggest names in women's basketball is tired of the narratives around her. You'll hear exactly what was said next, right here on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Top of the hour, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. The man who compiles the Bible of college football every single year, and it's out on newsstands now. Phil Steele will join us. Cannot wait to get my hands on this year's Phil Steele College Football Preview Magazine. Danny Parkins joins us in about 45 minutes as well here on Westwood One Sports. It is Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos here on You Better You Bet. Also later, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, we'll continue our daily series of power rankings. And this one is just straightforward. We've done position groups. We've done coaches. No, today we just tell you the top 5 teams in the NFL going into the 2026 season. Plus, a little later in the show, I also have, I want to take a drive to Crazy Town, okay? I want to build a scenario that I don't think is likely to happen, not probable to happen, but still may have just a shred of a possibility left in it. And I think it may blow up your brain because it blew up mine when I started to think about it last night. That's all on the way. Whether it's baseball, whether it's soccer, whether it's WNBA, Summer League, Wimbledon, whatever it may be, today, BetMGM players, you're going to get an Any Sport Parlay Boost token inside your BetMGM app. To use that Parlay Boost token, just add a parlay wager made up entirely of any sport wagers to your bet slip and then activate the token. If you win your wager that was made with that token, you're going to receive extra winnings. All right there inside your BetMGM app. Download it today and make it legendary. Please gamble responsibly. So Caitlin Clark is supposed to be back in the lineup for Indiana tonight. It's been a couple weeks. And one of the leading voices, if not the leading voice in women's basketball, at least at the college level, Gino Auriemma, was on Richard Deitch's sports media podcast yesterday. And Richard does a phenomenal job, by the way. I've subscribed to his podcast for years and always does a very good job breaking down not just sports, but the media coverage of sports. And Gino had, we're not going to play the whole thing for you because it's like 4.5 minutes long. But Gino went off on a bit of a diatribe about the narratives built around Caitlin Clark and the WNBA. Here's just part of it.
But that's all they are. They are not a referendum on America, which is what the whole goddamn thing has become.
Yeah.
Right? A foul is a foul. Right? Here's my thing. It's not happening to Paige. This is Jesus coming down to save the WNBA. And it's not, none of it, I hope people that are listening can differentiate. She never stood up and said, I'm Jesus and I'm coming.
Right.
This was not something that was created by her. It was created about her by all the people that in America are delusional that think, you know, one player who's not Wemby is going to come in and transform the league.
Again, Gino Auriemma, while doing his dishes, apparently, on Richard Deitch's sports media podcast yesterday. And again, that's just a part of what he said. So I want to put it in just a little bit of context and then question some of what Gino's saying while agreeing with other parts of it. He said that Caitlin Clark fans in America are delusional who think she's going to go in there and as a player totally turn the WNBA on its ear. He also said that the politicization, I said that, I asked Bill during our pre-show meeting, I still couldn't say that word, politicization, still didn't get it right. People have turned this into a political issue. Are way off base. This isn't a political issue. But I do think it is an issue that the WNBA needs to consider because Caitlin Clark did come in and turn the WNBA on its ear financially. the eyeballs that Caitlin Clark generates did turn the WNBA on its ear for the better. And this was my contention, a little over a week ago when we talked about this the first time. Without Caitlin Clark, there is no 19 million people tuning in for a WNBA game on a Sunday afternoon in the middle of June. There isn't. I'm sorry. That's no disrespect to every other player in the league, and there's a lot of good players in the WNBA. But that doesn't happen. And if that doesn't happen, then you don't get the new TV contracts. And if you don't get the new TV contracts, you don't get the revisions to the CBA that allow you to get paid what you justly and rightly deserve based on the money you're generating for the league. Without Caitlin Clark, none of that happens. So at one point, Gino made the comparison and said, it's not like you're going to have a Larry Bird effect on the NBA on the court or a Magic Johnson effect on the court. Okay, maybe she doesn't go out and dominate the game on a nightly basis. From a basketball perspective, I understand what Gino's saying. But from a pure financial perspective, she has been the Larry Magic effect on the WNBA. Our executive producer, Bill Zimmerman, pointed this out last week when we got into this conversation. Before Larry and Magic, the NBA was playing their championship round on tape delay on ESPN at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. Nobody paid attention to the NBA. Shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people didn't, not on the same level that it became after Larry Bird and Magic Johnson entered the league. That's when the NBA took off, and then you had Michael Jordan taking it to the stratosphere. Caitlin Clark is the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson effect on the WNBA from a financial perspective. And that's why it still confounds me that you have the out-and-out hostility towards her. Gino explained it away as, well, yeah, you're the first overall pick. That happens to every first overall pick when you enter the league. People are going to gun for you. So I understand it from that perspective. And I'm not asking people, look, nobody's asking for special treatment for Caitlin Clark, I don't think. Just asking that it be recognized that without her, you guys are still flying coach and making $50,000 a year. That's the reality of it. So she has had that effect, maybe not always on the court, but off the court. Without Caitlin Clark, there's no eyeball, not as many. I shouldn't say no. I hate when people speak in absolutes, but there aren't as many eyeballs on your game. And without all those extra eyeballs, there's not nearly as much money. And without all that, what are we talking about? So she's back tonight. And the hope would be, from me, just an average everyday sports fan, and I would think from you as well, that when she goes out there, if she takes a hard foul, the hard foul gets called. And that people don't react to her reactions to throwing her arms up because she got fouled and there was no call. That's all part of the game. That's all part of basketball. But what happens is you have people take it and turn it into something political, which it's not vaguely even remotely close to being in that realm. And it also leads people to head down this path of, well, who's she? She's not as good. Well, we'd be fine without her. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. You'd be making 1/10 of what you're making right now. Coming up, the Bible of college football has hit newsstands. It's one of my favorite conversations every year. The man who publishes that Bible of college football, Phil Steele, joins us to talk about the entire college football offseason and what to expect this fall. That's next on Westwood One Sports. Just let me know in the chat,
It's
Laura, when
time
he's ready.
to laugh, to win, and
Got it.
the thrill of the action.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. What the hell's going on out here?
No idea what's going on, but I am excited.
Every pick, every play, every game-changing.
Oh, he's there now.
This is You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Just 7 short weeks from now, the college football season starts. Oh, I can feel it. Getting all tingly. I won't mention where, because we're on terrestrial radio in a lot of spots, and that would be, well, first of all, it would be kind of vulgar. Second of all, it would be very weird that I would share that with you. Anyway, Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos here on Westwood One Sports. It is You Better You Bet. Danny Parkins joins us in 20 minutes to talk about the failure of USA soccer, where LeBron may be headed, and what the hell's going on with the Celtics. 1 hour from now, we will power rank the top 5 NFL teams. Yeah, we're going full team after going through position by position over the last couple of weeks. That coming up, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific here on Westwood One Sports. But with just 7 short weeks, I'm going to tell myself that they're short weeks to make it feel closer until the college football season gets started. It means it's time to really dig in to the Bible of college football. Phil Steele's College Football Preview magazine. I will be stopping at Barnes & Noble today to grab my copy on the way home so that I am prepared with plenty to read while I'm on vacation and learn everything that happened this offseason and what to expect going into this fall. The man who puts it together every year joins us now here on Westwood One Sports. Phil Steele. Good morning, Phil. How are you?
You know, I am doing great, Chris. Hey, Chris, where are you going on vacation?
Aruba, Phil. I'm going to do my best to not get wildly sunburnt and just hide in the shade and read all about Mac transfers.
There you go. There you go. I love it. I love it.
If there's one guy who I know to turn to for all that information, it's you. So let's start with this. The transfer portal, while we don't have the late portal like we did in previous years, it still completely turns rosters upside down. So after all of your analysis and putting together this year's preview mag, which dark horse team outside of the traditional powers do you think has done the most to acquire that talent in the portal to maybe send them on a playoff run?
You know, and I'll tell you this about the portal this year, Chris, is that not having a second transfer portal window made the magazine process so much better this year. We didn't have to readjust 138 team pages and 138 position write-ups all in the month of May and trying to get this thing out of here in June. And talking to the head coaches this year, Chris, it was interesting that almost every single coach said it was more like a team this spring. It's more like a team this spring because they could actually put 2 deep and 3 deep out without fearing that the player's going to transfer, so they could actually coach the players more in the spring, and the players didn't have to worry about being replaced after spring practice was over. So the team you had coming into the spring was the team who went out of the spring. I think we're going to see better football on the field this year because of that. Now, as far as a team that made a big stride in the transfer portal, I don't know if it's going to be playoff stride, but a big stride, you'd have to look at Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State's a team that last year was just absolutely miserable. They had one of the worst seasons ever. They're at 1-11 in conference play. They were minus 134 yards per game. And what they did is they went out and basically brought in North Texas's offense, which was potent last year. They bring in Drew Mestamaker at quarterback, Caleb Hawkins, a 1,400-yard rusher, the receiving core from North Texas last year, and a bunch of got about 30 players coming in from North Texas, and of course, head coach Eric Morris. So I think you'll see a big jump from them, much like remember last year in CUSA, you had Marshall, which was the CUSA champ, and then all their players went to Southern Miss, and Southern Miss was like a winless team, and all of a sudden Southern Miss was contending for the Sun Belt title last year. You might see that with Oklahoma State, although I don't think they'll get that high. I've got a middle of the pack in the Big 12 this year, but that's a big improvement over 1-11 last season.
One of the things I like a lot about the magazine too, Phil, is, with conference schedules all being so varied these days, it's not like everybody plays the same 7 teams. This isn't the days of the Big 8 or anything like that. The detailed breakdown on strength of schedule. So when we look at some of the playoff contenders or traditional powerhouses this year, where are some of the teams that are definitely going to be affected by having a more difficult conference schedule than their conference mates?
Yeah, and I think a couple of teams like Oklahoma last year made the playoff, and they did face a tough schedule last year, but did well against it. This year they have to play Michigan on the road, Georgia on the road, Texas in the Cotton Bowl, and Florida on the road. Those are all really tough road games. Texas A&M, Ole Miss at home. They've got a lot of games this year which fall into the questionable area. And Florida's a team that's going to be greatly affected by that, but I don't think Florida has been in that national title conversation. A couple of teams that you might look at, they get to avoid the big boys, like Penn State, for example. This year they do not play Ohio State. They do not play Oregon. They do not play Michigan. So they avoid all the top teams in the Big Ten. And I think Matt Campbell steps into a pretty good situation there. But you are absolutely correct. There are plenty of conference differences. And I've been running them down on philsteele.com. We've got a complete thing where we rank each of the conferences, who plays the toughest schedule in the conference, like Florida State, for example. There are 4 really good teams in the ACC this year: Miami, Clemson, SMU, and Louisville. I think those 4 teams are your top 4 teams. The only one that faces all 4 is Florida State. That's not very good news for Mike Norvell, who's, of course, on the hot seat at Florida State.
Great point. Phil Steele's College Football Preview magazine is out. Go to philsteele.com. Also at Barnes & Noble, where I will be stopping to pick my copy up today and cannot wait to dig into it. And I highly recommend, too. I've done it the last couple of years, signing up for some of the VIP bundles as well, so you can get all the information updated throughout the season. You talk to a ton of coaches to put the Preview magazine together every year, Phil. Who impressed you the most, I guess, especially of guys that are moving into new positions?
Well, I don't want to play favorites because I do talk to all the coaches. So, but a couple of coaches that have really impressed me, and they're coaches that are on the move up. John Summerall, take a look at him, who just took over at Florida. The question was, do we get Lane Kiffin? Do we get John Summerall? I'm not sure John Summerall, that might not be the better long-term pick there as the head coach. He's been in 4 games or 4 seasons as a head coach, 2 at Troy, 2 at Tulane, and he's got his team to the conference championship all 4 years. He's a no-nonsense type of coach. I love that, and gets a lot of production on the field. Takes over a Florida team that's got a lot of talent, but they do have a tough schedule this year. And staying in the SEC there, another up-and-coming coach and a new coach this year is Alex Golish. And Golish, I like when I talked to him his first time at South Florida, it was like, well, why are we going to be different at South Florida than what we've been the last couple of years? And he just laid it out. He laid out the reasons why this is going to be different, this, and this. And I was very impressed with that. And I think he steps into a good situation at Auburn. Auburn hasn't had a winning record since 2020. I think they can get there this year, especially bringing in a guy like Byron Brown with them, who had 3,000 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing. So those are 2 of the coaches I think that are on the rise, that are making big steps up to the SEC.
Phil Steele with us previewing the college football season. His 2026 College Football Preview magazine is out right now. When we talk about the 2 big boys, the SEC and the Big Ten, Phil, there has been a decided shift, obviously, with Big Ten teams winning national championships the last few years. There has been a decided shift towards that balance of power being in the Big Ten's side of the court. When you look at those 2 big conferences, are we going to see a continued shift in that direction? How deep are each of these conferences who continue to grow every year? And can the Big Ten once again put somebody out there who's able to roll their way through the SEC big boys if it gets to that point in the playoffs?
Yeah, and I think when you look at the 2 conferences, the teams at the top of the Big Ten, talking about naturally Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, those 3 teams probably have the best shot of getting back and getting that national title berth again. In fact, it would be an interesting storyline if Oregon wins the national title. They've got Dante Moore back at quarterback. One of the best defensive lines in the country, solid on the offensive line, great skill players, all that, and a tough home field edge. They would be the fourth different Big Ten team to win the national title in 4 years. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. So I think the Big Ten at the top, very strong, and even a team like USC, I think, is a legitimate team that could slide in there as a title contender. I think the SEC is probably the deeper conference overall. You take a look at some of the teams I've got towards the bottom, like Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, 11th in the SEC, tied for 11th in the SEC. I think if Florida was in the Big Ten, I'd have them picked a little bit higher. So I think the SEC's got better depth. I think the Big Ten has got the teams that can take advantage of the fact the conference they're playing in and have the better record at the end of the year. But I think the NIL money has actually shifted a little bit. The Big Ten's got a little bit more NIL money than the SEC, and that's why we've seen this the big shift. I think both conferences are clearly head and shoulders among the rest.
Phil Steele with us here on Westwood One Sports' college football preview magazine, one of the Bibles of college football every summer to get you ready for the season, now just 7 weeks away. Let's talk about that returning starters chart, because that's one of the first things I flip to when I'm trying to get a vibe for whether a team is going to look like they did last year. So which team's experience do you think, or maybe there's several teams that you think will translate directly into getting them wins in crunch time, maybe?
Yeah, the interesting thing about the returning starters this year, Chris, and you'll notice it when you pick up this year's magazine, is I made a change in the returning starters where I now have a slash. So there's two numbers for returning starters, and I'm glad you brought that up. The first number is the overall returning starters, which means if a player was a returning starter, let's say for Oregon, and they've transferred to Ohio State, and they won the job out of the spring, I'll count them as a returning starter because they started last year and now they're going to start again this season. So teams can have 8, 9, 10 returning starters up there using the transfer portal to get there. The second number are the actual number of players that are returning starters from last year's squad. So, taking a team like let me get a good example here. LSU on offense has 9 returning starters on offense, including the quarterback, but it's 9*/4. They only have 4 guys back from last year's offense. 5 of the guys are transfers, like Sam Leavitt at the quarterback position. So that's the difference this year in the returning starters. Now, as far as I flipped to the experience chart. You take a look at a team like BYU, for example. BYU is number 3 on my experience chart coming into the season. And I got to tell you, I've gone over the team with Coach Sataki. All 11 years he's been the head coach. This is my opinion, this is his best team he's put on the field. These guys are big and strong at the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. Their front seven's going to be nasty. They now have a quarterback in Bear Bachmeier that has experience. They've got Martin at running back, one of the best in the country. Big offensive line, big defensive line. I think BYU is a legitimate title threat this year, and it is, like I said, Sataki's best team. And another one to look at is Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a team that ranks number 4 on my experience chart. Remember last year the question mark was, well, they don't have an experienced quarterback. Well, C.J. Carr did pretty well for a first year as a starter. This year they've got, if you look at the offensive line, I rate it number 1 in the country. Defensively, they have my number 1 set of defensive backs, number 1 linebackers, number 5 defensive line. I think they have the best defense, best offensive line, experienced quarterback. The big question mark is who's going to replace Love and Price as the running back combo, but I like the talent with Aeneas Williams, Kendron Young, Nolan James, Jonas Walden. And behind that offensive line, I think you're going to see new stars emerge. So this is a Notre Dame team to keep an eye on, and one that is right at the top of my experience chart.
Before I let you run, Phil, I got to ask, you mentioned the Oklahoma-Michigan matchup in particular week 2. When you look at all your power ratings and matchups that are happening, especially non-conference matchups on the early season schedule, which one are you most intrigued by that could be a potential season-defining game early in the season?
Well, not necessarily early in the season. I'm going to throw out one to you on November the 7th.
Okay.
Notre Dame is hosting Miami of Florida. That one really stands out to me because Cristobal's doing a great job with Miami. They have a young offensive line headed into the year, but by that time there'll be a veteran offensive line. I think Miami's a legitimate title contender. I think Notre Dame's a legitimate title contender, and I think that matchup is the one I'm probably most looking forward to as far as the non-conference games. Of course, besides the one everybody's talking about, which is Texas and Ohio State, which right at the start of the year.
Can't wait to dig into it as soon as I pick it up tonight, Phil. Taking it on vacation with me, going to spend a little time reading it on the plane and every day while I'm laying on the beach. Phil Steele is the man, puts together the Bible every year, his college football preview magazine. Thanks for the time again, Phil.
Yeah, don't forget it's exclusively at Barnes & Noble, so make sure you check out Barnes & Noble, and you can also get it at philsteele.com, but Barnes & Noble, your best place to get it, and they've got 2 different covers at each Barnes & Noble, so check that out, and don't get too sunburnt, though, okay, Chris?
I'm going to try not to, but I'm very, very pale. It could lots of SPF 75. Enjoy the rest of the summer. Can't wait to talk to you again later once the season gets started.
All right, sounds great, Chris. Have a great vacation.
Yep, thank you. Phil Steele. Go to philsteele.com or, like he said, Barnes & Noble to pick up this year's edition of the College Football Preview magazine. I start to get tingly this time of year. I can't help it. Yeah, I'm going to get burnt. That happens on vacation. I mean, we're going to be damn near on the equator. And I am, as Bill just said in the chat, shockingly Caucasian. I mean, this burns real easy. Real easy. So there's a lot of like Germanic and English blood in this DNA. I mean, my ancestors were not made for laying on a beach. So it is what it is. Reapply every hour, kids. That's your lesson from your buddy Chris Mack. While you're hopefully laying under a beautiful straw palapa on the beach and getting ready for college football. What the hell's going on in Boston? That's a question I'd like to ask Danny Parkins from First Things First on FS1. Hey, you know what? He's coming up next. We're going to ask Danny about the Jaylen Brown deal. We're going to ask him about the summer of LeBron and also what the hell happened to the U.S. men's national team? That's all next right here on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Famously fronted by Ramon Hernandez and Ramon Laureano. The Ramones on Westwood One. Don't ask, it's an off-air conversation with Kenny, who doesn't know anything that happened before 2010. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos today here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Top of the hour. We'll power rank the top 5 teams in the NFL with training camps just around the corner after we've rolled through all the position groups over the last few weeks. And also, we're going to take a trip to Crazy Town around 11:25 Eastern, 8:25 Pacific, because it's not a likely scenario, probably not even very probable at all, but there's just an outside chance, a possibility that this could play out. And the Donovan Mitchell extension got me to thinking about it. That all on the way. But what the hell's going on in Boston? Where is LeBron going to land? And we thought it was going to be the summer of soccer, and it fell flat on its face. Here to talk about all of it, the great Danny Parkins from First Things First on FS1. Morning, Danny. How are you, my friend?
Great to be on, man. Big shoes in for Kostos, yes, who gets more vacation than the president.
I had someone text me yesterday, does Kostos ever work? And I said, well, he basically works 8.5 days a week during the football season, so he's banked the time. We'll let him have it.
So do all of us. So do all of us. Yeah, listen, the great Jim Rome, he has many great lines. One of my 3 favorite Jim Rome lines ever: I take a lot of vacation because I earn a lot of vacation. And so, yeah, I guess Kostos is following in the footsteps of the great Jim Rome.
Absolutely. Let's start with Monday night. I was so psyched for this. I'm not a soccer fan. I'm just your average, everyday American sports fan. And when you sprinkle some red, white, and blue on top of it, man, you give me a reason to wear my Stars and Stripes Speedo beyond just the 4th of July. I'm ready to go, and I was fired up for Monday night. And the U.S. men's soccer team came out flatter than a pancake, man. So what do you take away from this? And what do you think it does to what felt like it was this groundswell of momentum for soccer in the U.S. this summer?
So I think there's 2 separate conversations. Like, I think that the tournament, whenever a country hosts a World Cup, interest in soccer in that country grows. Like, even if you would say that soccer interest in that country is at an 11 out of 10, like 4 years from now, it'll be in Spain and Portugal and Morocco. Soccer is an 11 out of 10 in those places, and it will still grow, and it will still have an impact. So I have no doubt that millions and millions of people fell in love with soccer, and the tournament was a success in that regard. Record attendance, record ratings, all of those types of things. For the U.S. men's national team, where I will say they made progress is if you're looking in the rearview mirror. And by that, I mean, we've made it to the round of 16 now in the last 4 World Cups that we've qualified for. And that's where they've gotten eliminated. But in the group stage, in order to get there, we've kind of eked our way there with a lot of draws and a lot of 1-0 games. Like, we scored 4 total goals in the 2022 World Cup. In this World Cup, we kind of kicked ass in the group stage. Now, part of that is they got a pot 1 draw by being a host country. Part of it is the watered down field, because now there are more teams in the tournament and there's a round of 32 when there hadn't been before. But part of it is I think we got better. Like, I do think we got better, especially offensively, Balogun being among the chief reasons why. So I think the gap between, say, we're the 18th best soccer country in the world, I think the gap between us and 50 and us and 70 is now pretty wide. But this tournament was supposed to be about, have we closed the gap between us and 6 and us and 2? And I think we clearly have not, given that we've made the round of 16, like I said, now in 4 straight World Cups, and this was our most lopsided loss, and we looked like we didn't belong on the pitch against Belgium. So, I think it's more nuanced than some people are making it out to be, but ultimately I would say it was a disappointment, because you were supposed to get back to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2002, and we were hoping that the measuring stick game was going to be against a team like Spain, one of the favorites, as opposed to a team like Belgium, who we would like to think we are more equal to.
I do think one of the other silver linings that came out of this, Danny, is that they played a style that engaged American sports fans. Like you
Yeah,
referenced how they
goals.
used to. Yeah, they were aggressive. They attacked up until the round of 16 game against Belgium. They played the style of soccer that American fans will easily engage with. They didn't park the bus. They didn't stand back there and pass it back and forth on the back line to waste time. They were coming after you. And that's one of the reasons I think it's imperative on them to bring Pochettino back, because he encouraged that style of play. If nothing else, he encouraged them to play soccer at a speed and a pace and a tempo and with a style that is going to keep American fans engaged in a game that usually the average American fan, especially our age, looks at and goes, soccer, boring. No, it wasn't boring. You can't say that.
I think that you are mostly correct. The only place I slightly disagree with you on is, and I like Poach, but even if they lose Poach, the next manager will do the same thing because we have Balogun now. Like, we have a world-class striker. You know, like you bend the troops to the mission, you know, to make a probably cringy military analogy. But like the defense in the past, our goalkeeper has always been awesome. We went into this opener of the World Cup not knowing if Matt Freese or Matt Turner was going to start, and we had 3 MLS goalies on our roster, right? Where Tim Howard is an accomplished international goalie. Like we've had great goalkeepers in past World Cups. This one, it was a huge question mark. In the past, our strength has been defense, and this one we were starting Tim Ream. And 2 years ago, people were like, "Is Tim Ream even going to play in the World Cup? Is he too old? Is he going to retire? Like, what's the future of that?" So the strength of the team was Pulisic and Balogun and kind of the frontline attack. And so I hope that they keep Pochettino for continuity, and I like him and he's intense. But whoever they hire as manager, the strength of the team is still going to be the front line and not the back line. So I don't think that there's much concern that they're always going to start to use your term, park the bus and play more defensive.
Yeah, I hope you're right. Danny Parkins with us here on Westwood One Sports. Check out First Things First on FS1 every weekday, 5 Eastern. Where are we going with the summer of LeBron now? Like Sham said yesterday on Stephen A's show, the top 3 are Cleveland, Miami, and Philly. If those are really the top 3, and really you could open this up to include almost anyone aside from the Nuggets, I would say. And I would look at it and say, no, Philly's your best shot, LeBron. If what you really want to do in your final year is contend for a title, it's Philly. It's not Cleveland. It's not Miami. So with the push coming on from, Bob Meyer, everybody else saying, no, we've got the team. This is the place where if you want to win, LeBron, do you think that's really what's driving his decision this summer? Or is it just looking to have a little bit of fun, bookend the narrative with, a trip back to Cleveland or Miami, a place he's been before, and ride off into the sunset with a retirement tour?
So, listen, getting inside LeBron's mind is very, very difficult. I think when Rich Paul did that podcast with Max Kellerman and they put 10 teams on the whiteboard, the thing that I took out of it more than anything else is, oh my God, LeBron is willing to play for a minimum contract. Like if he and that really does open. I mean, if he's going to go to Boston, it's like, okay, well that means he is willing to play for the minimum, not even the mid-level exception. We'll see what he ends up signing for, but I think that a lot of things are on the table. I don't know that I agree with you though that like why is Philly much better than Boston than Cleveland? Like, I don't know that I can trust Joel Embiid to be healthy come playoff time. And if Joel Embiid isn't healthy, they don't really have much in the front court. They've got a very, very, very talented perimeter game. But, Jaylen Brown is a very good player who's a bit of an enigma. LeBron fits any team in the league at this point. James Harden and LeBron is obviously a weird fit, but I wonder if James Harden, he opted out. So maybe he's a sign and trade candidate. I think if LeBron James plays for your team on a minimum contract, literally every team in the league gets much, much, much better and has a shot to win big. So, all 3 of those teams, I think, could win the East. And I would actually have the most question about Miami, given how new all of the pieces would be together, and they still wouldn't have that much shooting. out there. But I think all three of those teams that you mentioned could win the East.
Yeah, and the Harden caveat that you place there, I think, is an important one. If he's not there, I just have a hard time getting myself to the finals with James Harden, an important part of the mix.
Yeah, but how important would he be? Like, how important? Like, he would not be as important as LeBron. He would not be as important as Mitchell, and he would not be as important as Mobley. Right? Like, if James Harden's your fourth best player, it's a pretty good team. I know James Harden's playoff problems are well documented. I get it. But if he is your fourth best player, that's a team that represents a pretty high offensive ceiling. So I just, again, like LeBron on a minimum contract. So that means he's just like purely additive. Like, you don't need to subtract anything, and you just add LeBron James to it. I wouldn't write off any team that he joins, honestly, in the East.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I do like, if you're talking about minimizing Harden's impact, maybe that's, addition by subtraction, as it were, by adding LeBron to the lineup and taking Harden out of the game as much as you could. I just look at the lineup stacked next to each other, and with a healthy Embiid, which I know, like you said, is a giant qualifier to anything that may happen in Philadelphia. With a healthy Embiid, I look at Embiid, Maxey, Edgecombe, Brown, James as a finals contender, whereas I look at Mobley, Allen, LeBron, Harden, Mitchell as topping out at the Eastern Conference Finals.
I think, reasonable minds can disagree. Like, Joel Embiid last year, 38 games. Year before that, 19 games. Year before that, 39 games. Mm-hmm. Like, I have no reason to believe Joel Embiid is going to be playing a full season at this point, given his size and injury history. So, like, if Harden came back to Cleveland, as we just like game this out, and LeBron's there, James Harden might be your sixth man. I would sign up for James Harden to run my offense as the sixth man who plays and on the good nights he closes and on the bad nights he doesn't. And you don't need to rely on him as much for decision making because, LeBron James is on the team. Like, I would, and again, he currently is not under contract. So
right.
that could be a sign and trade for a wing, right? Like, we don't know what that would be. They've kind of hinted around more moves there. So he is a purely additive piece at this point. Now, if he goes to Golden State, he just wants to play with his friends. Like, that team cannot win, right? Because of the West and because they didn't get Anthony Davis and all of those things. But, like, I think with how the East is good, but it is wide open. Like, I don't think there's a huge gap between 1 and 6 in the East. And so you add LeBron to any of those 1 through 6 teams, I just believe that they can win.
Danny Parkins of First Things First on FS1 every weekday at 5 Eastern with us here on Westwood One Sports. Before I let you run, Danny, I got to ask, what the hell do you think is going on in Boston? Because after the Brad Stevens press conference, I'm left just taking everything he said at face value. And it sounds like the Jaylen Brown for Paul George trade was a salary dump, but not a salary dump for this year, a salary dump for effectively 2 years from now. And I don't remember, at least in any recent memory of mine, the Boston Celtics being a team that is dumping salary so they can reshape a roster 2 years down the road and not compete now.
Well, I mean, they have new ownership. Right. And so they had a very expensive team that won a title. And so they have done some things. Right. I mean, Drew Holiday is not on the Celtics anymore. That was at least partly motivated by money. So, like, the ownership change, I think, did change some of the calculus there. Clearly, the Jaylen Brown thing is weird. Right. Like, it is probably the biggest disconnect between media and eye test and analytics that I've ever seen. And Brad Stevens is analytically driven, but I agree, like, take him at his word. He says that was just a factor amongst a bunch of factors that led to that trade. He said that they needed to remake their team at the end of the season when they lost. And he's like, how close were we really? And so they get Mitchell Robinson, they get Mike Conley, and they add Paul George, and they lose Jaylen Brown, and they've got a little bit more future flexibility. and they pick up some trade assets. Like, obviously, Jaylen Brown for Paul George is a downgrade just because of age, right? But you also add in Mitchell Robinson, who's one of the best rebounders in basketball. That changes their team pretty dramatically. Conley is a veteran, so I don't put much stock into it, but he can play at the pace that they want to play at. I don't know why Jaylen Brown was voted 6th for MVP and made second team All-NBA, and he thought he was disrespected by that. And now he's traded for Paul George and a couple of draft picks. So, like, there is clearly a bigger chasm on Jaylen Brown, good player, medium player, bad player, than maybe any player in the NBA right now. But I would also say, as I ramble a little bit here for you, Chris, and I apologize, I wrote this NBA book a couple of years ago, Pipeline to the Pros, where we talked to a bunch of coaches and executives, talked to dozens and dozens of them. Brad Stevens talked to him for about 90 minutes for the book. And I've been in media for, 20 years. And I would say that Brad Stevens and Theo Epstein are the two smartest people that I've ever spoken to in sports. Like 1 and 2 in some order. Like, Brad Stevens is not a dumb guy. There is something either that we are not understanding, and I'm not saying that he is perfect by any means, but this is not like Brad Stevens got fleeced. Like Brad Stevens just, there was a great offer on the table and he just didn't think of it, or like he just didn't come across it, or like he just didn't make a phone call. Like, he is a very smart person. And so I'm not saying that means he will win this trade, but I am saying that it means that, like, there's not going to be a media member or a blogger or some guy on Twitter who's like, what he should have done? This, and Brad Stevens didn't think about it. So there's a huge disconnect here. I agree with everybody on that. I just think that, that guy deserves a lot of benefit of the doubt.
Danny, great stuff, man. Can't wait to check you out this afternoon, every afternoon on First Things First on FS1. Thanks for checking in today, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff, man. And hopefully Kostos is back within the next month or so.
Yeah, we'll get him back by September at least.
Yeah, right. That's true. That's all we need. I'll see you, buddy.
Thanks, Danny. We'll see you. Danny Parkins. Check him out on First Things First every weekday, 5 Eastern on FS1. I don't know. He got me thinking a little bit about the Cavs. Just a little bit. I can't get there on a roster where James Harden exists and is part of it. Even if he's relegated to some sort of $45 million a year sixth man status, I still don't know if I can get there. As long as he's in the room or on the bench or on the floor, that pall of postseason nothingness hangs over him. I don't know if I can get there, but Danny, he did his damnedest. Coming up, with the U.S. out of the World Cup, is there anything that will keep the average American sports fan watching? I'll tell you just a couple ideas if you're looking for somebody to adopt, so to speak. That's next on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Really excited we nailed that Zach Wheeler strikeout prop yesterday. He lit it up. 14 Ks. Why is that man not on the All-Star team? Ridiculous. I've got another K prop for you later in the show before we wrap up here on Westwood One Sports. There's somebody striking out people even more often than Jacob Mizorowski over the last 2 months. I'll tell you who it is and tell you what the odds are at BetMGM a little bit later in the show. Today, BetMGM player is going to receive an Any Sport Parlay Boost token inside your BetMGM app. To use it, all you got to do, add a parlay wager to your bet slip, activate the token. You win your wager that was made with that token, you receive extra winnings. Download the BetMGM app today. That's where it's waiting for you, and make it legendary. Please gamble responsibly. Top of the hour, so in about 12 minutes, I will give you my definitive power rankings of the top 5 teams in the NFL with training camps now just a few weeks away. There's one team I really wanted to put in the top 5 and one team I really wanted to keep out, but I couldn't do it with either one of them. I couldn't quite get there. That's coming up, like I said, in a little less than 15 minutes. Plus, the Donovan Mitchell extension in Cleveland got me thinking about not just Mitchell and the Cavs, but someone else who was in a similar situation this summer decided to pass, and whether it creates a path to crazy town, much like we saw the Celtics take this summer. I'll explain the whole thing to you in about 35 minutes here on You Better You Bet. But the U.S. is out of the World Cup. And especially with the unceremonious way they were dispatched by Belgium, I can understand a lot of average, everyday American sports fans. If you're one of those 40 million plus who watched on Monday night along with us, you may just throw your hands up and walk away from it and say, screw soccer. I'm done for the summer. I only watch every 4 years anyway. Like, I get it. Even with some of my favorite sports, I get in that mode. Like, when my team, I am a Pittsburgh fan, born and raised. And so when the Steelers inevitably lose the wild card game every year, I don't want to say I lose interest. I still watch the rest of the NFL playoffs and the Super Bowl, but I am not nearly as locked in from that point forward. Same thing goes when my Penguins get eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs. I go, screw this. Last thing I want to do is see the Flyers go another round. And when and if the Pirates return to the playoffs, I imagine the same thing would happen to me, if that day ever comes. So I understand if with the U.S. men's national team out of the World Cup, you're like, I'm out on soccer. I'm not out, though. I'm not. I've got a couple things that I want to see. And Argentina is at or very close to the top of the list. If there is a story that could provide a rooting interest for you for the remainder of the World Cup, it's got to be Lionel Messi and Argentina. I mean, if nothing else, just based on yesterday alone, when they're down 2-0 to Mo Salah and Egypt with just a little more than 10 minutes left in the game, and they come storming back, including another goal from Messi, who is 38 now, playing in his final World Cup. Argentinians trying to defend their World Cup championship. All of these storylines go into it. And there are a few things American sports fans we love. You know it. I know it. Let's just admit it. We like to have the GOAT debate about everything. Oh, you walk into a convenience store. People want to have Wawa's got the best subs. They're goated. I would argue with that. But, everything in life. The GOAT debate always happens. Messi has a chance to stamp like a permanent GOAT right on his forehead if Argentina were to win the World Cup and defend their title. And he goes out on top. GOAted, as they say. And I think that's at least one reason it's worth staying tuned in to the World Cup as long as they're in it. Also, as we've already established on the show this morning, with my vacation looming and also what I'm sure will be a really nice sunburn, I look forward to showing it off to all of you the next time I fill in for Nick. Actually, I think the Monday after we get back from vacation, I'm scheduled to fill in for Nick. So it'll still be fresh. The lobsterish hue will still be with me. I have an affinity for Norwegians. No, seriously. We have family that lives in Norway. Some nieces and nephews. And we've always considered going there. Probably a better idea than going closer to the equator for someone of my complexion. But Erling Haaland, the dude's 25 and plays like a superstar striker that's been playing high-level international football his entire life. And the whole row the boat thing, it's hard, really hard not to root for Norway. And they go up against England in the quarterfinals. And as much as I want to support England, again, family in England as well. My father-in-law was British, grew up rooting for Manchester United. So, I'll be all right if England advances. But I'd like to see Norway. And this is a classic underdog story. Another thing that American sports fans absolutely love is a classic underdog story. And there's about as big a dog as is left amongst the 8 teams remaining. Norway and Morocco. So if you're looking for reasons to root for the rest of the World Cup, the GOAT, Messi, or the young up-and-comer, Erling Haaland and Norway, just a couple of reasons to consider staying tuned in on the World Cup going forward. Coming up, we continue our daily power rankings. This time, we just go straight ahead. The top 5 NFL teams next on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
And here we are, Power Hour, final hour of the show here on You Better You Bet. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos today here on Westwood One Sports. Always live with you inside that Westwood One Sports app, the Odyssey app, AUDACY. And of course, live across North America on Sirius XM channel 375. Coming up in about 20-25 minutes from now. It's admittedly a path to crazy town. I don't think the scenario I'm going to lay out for you is even 10% probability of happening. So it's definitely not likely. But I think there is an outside possibility, very outside, slim possibility it could play out next summer. And the Donovan Mitchell contract extension in Cleveland got me to thinking about it. We'll get there. We'll take our trip to Crazy Town in about 20 minutes here on Westwood One Sports. But we have, over the last couple of weeks, as I've been filling in for Nick, rolling through the different positional groups. We did receivers, we did secondaries, we did running backs, front sevens, offensive lines, every position group you could think of. And yesterday, we did coaching staffs. We've been power ranking the top 5 in the NFL across all these different aspects that make up a true NFL championship contender. So now it just makes sense, with vacation looming, that I give you my top 5 teams. This is it. The definitive list. I'll be honest, it's not entirely definitive because I had a hard time with these. I did. I felt really good about the top 2. Still feel really good about the top 2. 3 and 4, I'm conflicted about. Nobody's going to like who I have 3, I don't think. And 5, I bounced around to a couple of different spots. There was one team that I really want to put at number 5, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. And another team that I really didn't want to put there, but I had to. And for all of you out there worried, oh, here we go, Chris Mack's going to be a homer. He's got a terrible towel behind him and a Troy Polamalu buck. And oh, no, there's no mention of the Steelers anywhere near these power rankings. And no, they were not the team that I really wanted to put in the top 5. Come on. I can only delude myself so much. So, now that we've set it all up, let's get you the power ranking of the top 5 teams in the NFL going into the 2026 season. And let's start at number 5. That team that, I'll be honest, I really didn't want to put here. I didn't. But they belong. God, it pains me to say this. I said it yesterday about their coach. I think he's a jagoff, which I'm allowed to say on terrestrial radio. Certain parts of the country don't get that, but I think he's a giant jerk. Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos are number 5 for me. I think we'll see another step forward from Bo Nix. I'm sure we'll hear Sean Payton pat himself on the back for that. Oh, I can't wait to see the behind the scenes from this Seth Wickersham piece that he worked on that's up at ESPN.com right now, where he shadowed Peyton for a good part of the end of the year. You've still got an incredibly talented secondary. I mentioned them when we ranked secondaries. Pat Surtain, best coverage corner, one of the 2 best coverage corners in the league. And here's the thing. You added a guy who, to this point, I don't think has had an opportunity to prove that he can be a true wide receiver 1, and that's Jalen Waddle. That's a big part of this. The defense will be good again, and now they've got an opportunity to actually stretch some things downfield if Peyton is willing to do that. So I've got the Broncos at number 5. After we lay the whole thing out, I'll tell you who I really wanted to put there, but just couldn't bring myself to do it. Number 4, a lot of people are going to think they should be ranked higher. But despite the consistency, I can't get over the fact that it's still a coaching change in Buffalo. So I have the Bills at number 4. Look, Josh Allen, best quarterback in the league during the regular season. And look, DJ Moore, I know I've complained a good bit about how he was the only addition to the receiving core, but it's still a solid addition. It's a go-to guy for Josh Allen outside of his tight ends. And I think it has been somewhat underrated, the addition of Bradley Chubb. They do this in Buffalo where they rotate through a different veteran edge rusher to come in and hopefully provide something for them every year or two. I think Bradley Chubb could actually be that dude for them. Still got strength up front on defense. So the defense isn't as bad as I think some people try to convince themselves that it is. And James Cook is still one of the 2-3 best running backs in the league. So it's really hard. It would be impossible to leave Buffalo out of the top 5. I didn't want to do that, obviously. But just when you have a change at the head coaching position, again, I don't care about the consistency of the fact that Joe Brady is simply just upgrading himself to head coach. I do want to see how he handles. That is a totally separate gig from being the OC. And if he's still going to be the play caller, and he's still going to be the one directing that on Sundays, while also juggling the role of head coach, there's a lot to be said for that being a major adjustment, I think. So that's why I only have Buffalo at 4. Number 3, this is the one everyone is going to come at me for, I think, anyway. Because I think this, look, if everybody handles their responsibilities, if everybody, to quote the great philosopher Dwayne Johnson, knows their damn role, then I think this team is destined for a bounce back this year in multiple positions. The secondary with a big free agency addition, definitely at running back, the offensive line, staying healthy, and most importantly, the quarterback doing what the coordinator and head coach want to do. I got Philly at number 3. Yeah. If it all comes down to Hurts. I hate to say that, but the offensive line should be healthy. I think Saquon has a big bounce back year in him. Reek Woolen added to the secondary only makes it that much better. You've still got your 2 big behemoths up front on defense and a strong linebacking core. I can't see how Philly doesn't bounce back this year. Kenny just said it in the chat. Arguably the second best roster in football. I don't know if there's any arguably about it. It's the second best roster in football. Behind only one other that we'll get to in a couple minutes. But it all comes down to Jalen Hurts. When we look back on 2026, assuming he stays healthy the entire time, we are going to look back on 2026 as the season that served as a pivot point and a definition point in Jalen Hurts' career. He either got with the program and decided to do what's best for the Eagles and their offense, and also, as a byproduct, what's best for him, or he decided to continue and act like Jalen knows best and do what he wants to do. If Sean Mannion and Nick Sirianni can get Jalen Hurts to buy in and do what they want to do, the Eagles at worst, absolute worst, are the 3rd best team in football. So I have them at number 3. Number 2 for me, and you know where I'm going with 1 and 2. Everybody knows where everybody else is going with 1 and 2. It's just a question of how you order them. And despite the fact that they're the ones wearing the rings, I got to put Seattle at number 2. And really, it's just the personnel differences. That's it. That's all. Because I believe in the coaching staff. I'm saying this with a good amount of, a large grain of salt sprinkled in here. I think I believe in Sam Darnold to at least do what he's supposed to do. My only question would be some of the key losses in free agency, including Kenneth Walker III, and whether they can necessarily, not easily, but at some point replace those losses. So Seattle is number 2 for me. Number 1, that leaves the aforementioned, alluded to, best roster in football, best coach in football, the LA Rams. They're the favorite to win the Super Bowl for a reason. And not like a slight favorite. Like a pretty damned heavy favorite. They are 5-1 at BetMGM right now to win the Super Bowl. Next team on the board is Buffalo at 10-1. Everybody, especially after the Myles Garrett deal. I mean, that's just the cherry on top of this really scary Sunday if you are another NFC contender. But Garrett, McDuffie, assuming Puka is completely locked in and ready to go. I mentioned the running back tandem. I think Blake Corum is primed to pop off and have a massive year. But between he and Kyron Williams, I mean, is there a spot on this roster that looks especially weak? Or that doesn't at the very least look above average? That's it, the offensive line. That might be the only place where you look at it and go, if anything could be the downfall of the Rams this year. Maybe it's the offensive line. But even the offensive line is still really good. This team is stacked. And again, the consistency you get, I mentioned this yesterday, in just elevating your pass game coordinator to OC in Nate Shieldhouse, a guy who was interviewing for head coaching jobs this offseason. The consistency of having Chris Shula as your defensive coordinator again, a guy who was interviewing for head coaching jobs this year. The Rams are the team to beat. And I didn't even mention like schedule effects or anything like that. They've got a tough road to hoe in the first 5 weeks of the season. But you push past that and look at like weeks 6 through 10. I mean, there's 4 wins there. Arizona at Vegas, Chargers at home, at Washington, at Arizona. And it picks up again late in the year. So it's not an easy schedule for the Rams. But they've got a chance to win at least 12 games. Best roster, best coaching staff, a lot of bests. Rams 1, Seahawks 2, Eagles 3, Bills 4, Broncos 5. I'll tell you, the team just outside the top 5 that I really wanted to put in, Bill, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because I got to see the defense actually improve before I buy into the fact that they went out and improved it this offseason, is the Bengals.
Well, you wanted to put the Bengals in. I'm not ready to put the Bengals in the top 5 at all. I know Kenny's a big fan of them as well. Borderline top 10 maybe, but definitely not top 5. But overall, I think you did a good job with this list. To me, I think the Rams, Seahawks, and Buffalo have to be in your top 5. And I think most likely Denver does as well. The only thing that holds me back with Denver is Bo Nix. I am not still not a Bo Nix believer. I don't think he's terrible. I just don't think he's at that level that you need to be an elite team. But I think that 5th team is wildly up for grabs if you're trying to make a top 5. I disagree with the Eagles because I think this offense is going to be bad. Like, not okay, bad. Because I think Saquon Barkley is only great with a great offensive line. He can make plays, And I don't think that Eagles offensive line is great anymore. I think that's on the downside. I don't trust Jalen Hurts. You got rid of A.J. Brown and replaced him with a bunch of just dudes. Like, to me, the defense is going to be really good. This is going to be kind of like the Houston Texans of the NFC now at this point, I think. I just don't think they have an offense that's going to be functional. Now, who would the fifth team be? I don't even know. But if you wanted me to give you a wild, I'm not saying I put them in the top 5, but I think I would put this team in the top 10. I'm a big believer in this team. I don't like being a believer in this team as a Bears fan, but I think Kevin O'Connell is going to do things with Kyler Murray like he did with Sam Darnold. And I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to be excellent this year. If you wanted a wild card, I'd say them in the top 5. I do think I would have them in the top 10 no matter what.
Okay. Wow. Since you brought up the Texans, I've heard a lot of buzz about the Texans the last week or so. Where would you put? I wouldn't have them in the top 5, but I think that's a great comparison you made to the Houston Texans if the Eagles offense does struggle again this year. Where would you put Houston? I mean, I guess I'd have them right on the outskirts of the top 10, right around 10.
Yeah, it'd be like 11, 12, probably. I mean, they should probably win that division unless you're a big believer the Jaguars are going to repeat. But the Texans, regardless, should be one of the top 7 teams in the AFC. So you got to figure, 11, 12, somewhere in there.
Where did you say you have the Bengals now?
I'd have the Bengals probably right around where the Houston Texans are.
Okay. So I'm trying so hard to hold myself back from being all in on the Bengals because, like I said, I need to see the defensive improvement before I buy into what has been done on paper. But I just have a feeling that with a step forward from Chase Brown, which I think is imminent, I think he can I think he can be an A1 back in the league, and I think we see that step forward this year. Burrow healthy, Chase, Higgins, all the pieces we've talked about. You don't even need an above average defense. I just need your defense to be good enough. And I think the pieces they added make them good enough. That's why I would have the Bengals somewhere in that 6 to 8 range.
And if the Bengals had a coach that I would trust making the right decisions with 3 minutes to go in a close football game, I'd agree with you. But I still think Zach Taylor is a guy who's going to shoot his own team in the foot. And I have big concerns. I think Zach Taylor is a bottom 10 coach in the league.
We haven't mentioned the Ravens. Where do you, because I've said it multiple times. I think it's going to be a tough adjustment for Jesse Minter. Hasn't been a head coach before. Yes, he may help the defense, and that Ravens defense needs the help, no doubt. But I have major questions about the offense in so much as they didn't do a great deal to improve at receiver. They lose Isaiah Likely, so it's pretty much just Andrews at tight end now. Derrick Henry's a year older. I know we say that every summer, but Derrick Henry's a year older. And, I mean, they've got 3 street free agents essentially battling for the starting center spot, which I think is crucial as the linchpin in an offensive line that's trying to protect Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and like the Ravens, they have a lot of talent, even a lot of talent on that defense. I do think Jesse Minter probably is in a good position to become a good head coach. I'm with you, though. A lot of questionable decisions for me. I was really baffled by how they handled the tight end position. Mark Andrews is clearly on the downside of his career. Mm-hmm. Not only they let Isaiah Likely go, they let Charlie Kohler go, too. They had 3 excellent tight ends, and then they're just like, oh, we're just sticking with Mark Andrews. That was the time to not extend Mark Andrews and pivot on your tight ends, get a little younger there. So I agree with you on the Ravens. But to me, like I was talking about with those 3 or 4 teams at the top, but then between New England, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Houston, Jacksonville, I said San Diego, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, like to me, a lot of these teams, all the NFC North teams, basically, they're all coin flips. Like they could fall anywhere from 5 to 16. The 49ers in that group as well. I think it's really jumbled up after those top 3 or 4 teams.
Well, there's our power ranking, my power ranking. I'm not going to make everybody else take ownership of this. Power ranking of the top 5 teams in the NFL with training camps just a couple of weeks away. Rams 1, Seahawks 2, Eagles 3, Bills 4, hesitantly Broncos 5, and I left the Bengals out, even though I'm very high on them. Coming up next, the Donovan Mitchell extension in Cleveland and his desire to do it a year earlier than expected, I think shines a light on another star who wants to wait another year for his extension. And it makes me wonder if a perennial NBA power and an all-time great could find grounds for divorce next summer. It's not likely, but is there a road we can build to Crazy Town where it becomes possible? That's next on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
One of my favorite things to do is to pantomime like I know how to play an instrument when a song is on. And I always pantomime the piano during the beginning of Still DRE. Always, even though I have no idea how to play it. Air guitar, pretending like I know how to play In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins when the drums hit. I am just waving my arms wildly like I have any idea where you would actually wave to hit those drums. I have less. How about this for a comparison? Since we were joking about me getting sunburnt on vacation this week, I have less musical ability in my genetics than I have melanin in my skin. Okay? Literally, I couldn't even play the recorder in elementary school. Terrible. Which is ironic because I love music. Like Laura plays the Ramones as a rejoin, and I'm not the one that goes, oh, is that Ramon Hernandez or Ramon Laureano? No, that's Kenny. Like, I love music, but zero ability to actually play any of my own. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos here on You Better You Bet. It is Westwood One Sports, always live inside your Westwood One Sports app, as well as your Odyssey app, AUDACY, live across North America on Sirius XM channel 375. In 15 minutes, there is someone who is striking out people at a greater rate than Jacob Mizorowski over the last 2 months. And I'm going to bet this guy tonight and his K-prop. I'll tell you, this afternoon, I guess, technically. I'll tell you who it is in 15 minutes here on Westwood One Sports. But I told you I want to take a trip to Crazy Town. Come on. Come with me. I'll drive. It's cool. The Donovan Mitchell extension in Cleveland. It's got me thinking. Okay, everybody keeps lauding his desire to do this a year earlier than he could have when he really could have cashed out on a full Supermax. And that's great. He's been very clear. He wants to run it back with the team that they have. Who knows? Maybe LeBron comes in and the Cavs, like Danny Parkins told us earlier, actually have a legit shot at a title. I'm not buying it. I think they peak at Eastern Conference Finals at best, even with LeBron, but I'm always happy to be proven wrong. That being said, the Donovan Mitchell extension got me to thinking because the other immediate branch, if you're building what they call in this business a topic tree, the other thing that comes out of this is the guy who doesn't want to sign his Supermax extension right now, who wants to wait a year, Nikola Jokic in Denver. And I want to be very clear about this. Jokic has said he wants to retire in Denver. He wants to remain a Nugget for the rest of his career. So the road we are traveling down, I have already identified to you as the road to Crazy Town. But you see weird things on the road to Crazy Town. And I think if you saw some weird things over the next year, the possibility exists. It's low probability, low likelihood. We're talking less than 5%. But if a couple things change, those probabilities could shoot up. Is there not probability, not likelihood, just possibility that if things don't go well in Denver this year, Jokic doesn't want to sign the Supermax, and Jokic wants out? Again, I've acknowledged this is the path to Crazy Town, given everything the Nuggets and Jokic have said about each other. They want to ride off into the sunset together. But what does riding off into the sunset look like for Nikola Jokic? You know, we spent a lot of time earlier in the show talking about what it looks like for LeBron James. And for LeBron, if he doesn't want to go to Philly, okay, fine. It's a farewell tour, but it's not a legitimate shot at a title in your final year. Even what some people may tell you about the Cavs. I'm not there with it. What's it look like for Jokic, a guy who has just one ring, who, if he really wants to be considered amongst some of the most elite big men of all time, I mean, you could average a triple-double for your career, as he's done over the last, 3 years, I think? You could average a triple-double for your career, 4 years. And it still isn't going to put you up there with the big boys, the elite of elite, unless you got multiple rings. And does Jokic have... Obviously, he has a desire to win another championship. I was going to question that. Does Jokic want to win another ring? Obviously, he does, Chris. It's a stupid question. But again, we're on the road to crazy town. So sometimes stupid questions get asked. But there's no such thing as stupid questions on the road to crazy town, just stupid answers. And the stupid answer would be, no, Jokic would never want to leave Denver. But what if it's a down year in Denver? What if there's a key injury at some point? And what if Jokic can't carry them kicking and screaming through whatever that injury may be? Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Cam Johnson, I don't know. Throw out a name of a starter. And we look up and it's March and the Nuggets are battling for like the 6th seed. Okay, again, I didn't say any of this was likely or probable. I just said we're building the road to crazy town to see if there's even a possibility that this could happen. But let's say it's not a good year in Denver. Let's say multiple injuries. And they end up in the play-in. Oh my God, could you imagine the Nuggets in the play-in? I can't wrap my brain around this. But again, it's the road to crazy town. And let's say it's another first-round exit. Okay, let's say we don't even have to go play-in. We don't have to get crazy. Let's say it's a first-round exit. Again. And Jokic looks up and realizes, man, I love it in Denver. I am the face of the Nuggets. I am one of the all-time great big men. But if I really want people to talk about me with the likes of the all-time greats, the Russells, the Wilts, the Kareems, I got to get at least another ring. Hell, even if I don't want to be in that conversation, even if I just want to be on that second-tier conversation of all-time great big men, again, I can average a triple-double for 4 years. Doesn't matter. I got to win another ring. And maybe that gets to him, but not enough for him to want out of Denver. No. But what if Denver and ownership with the Nuggets, I know it's Kroenke, he's got God's money, but what if he looks at it and says, yeah, but we crush this roster if we go over the second apron. And we've already got Murray. We've got Gordon. We've got Cam Johnson. We want to extend Jokic, obviously, but if we do that, we're not going to be able to keep all these guys. And what if the Nuggets go down that path the Celtics went down this summer and look to deal one of their secondary stars in order to stay out of the second apron? What if that ticks off Nikola Jokic? And he goes, no. You keep the core intact. Damn the consequences on the cap. Because I want the best team possible to go win a title, to get myself another ring. Do we think that's crazy? I know Jokic has never been the guy to bang the table like that. Slam his fist down and say, no, this is the roster I have to have. I don't think he has anyway. But what if a frustrating season put him in that frame of mind with a possible supermax looming? Again, it is a path to crazy town, but it's not a 0%. There is a non-zero chance. Even if it's 0.00001%, there is a non-zero chance that a down year in Denver with how punitive cap implications in the second apron are in the NBA now, that next summer the Nuggets have to consider pulling some sort of crazy Celtics Jaylen Brown type move to stay off the second apron. And that kind of move would piss off Nikola Jokic, and he would say, if you're going to dismantle this team around me, I want out before I sign the Supermax. Again, I'm not telling you it's likely. It just popped into my head last night. When everybody was talking about Mitchell signing his extension, doing it a summer earlier than than would be expected, and when he could really, really max cash in, and how Jokic still has a year to wait, I looked around and said, what if things weren't so peachy in Denver? They are right now. Everything's great. There's no reason to believe that we would look up a year from now and Jokic and the Nuggets would divorce. But there's always, especially in the NBA, there's always a path towards something happening. If I would have told you 2 weeks ago, hell, a week ago at this time, if I would have told you LeBron James to the 76ers makes sense, you'd have looked at me like I had three heads. Rightfully so. But in an instant, one move, not even a full rough season, one move can change everything. So I'm hoping you enjoyed our trip down the road to Crazy Town, because it's not probable, it's not likely, but it's also not a 0% chance that it couldn't, in some realm, in some universe, happen. Coming up next, we're going to recap the best moments of the show. And yes, there is someone I really, really, really want to bet on tonight. I'll tell you who it is and why I want to, because I think this guy's on fire for the last 2 months. That's all coming up next on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
I know we're like 2.5 months into it being a phenomenon, but I still don't get tarps off. Like, I get what it is, but I don't get why people are still all into it. Maybe, again, like we've referenced several times this morning, it's the lack of melanin and my fear of getting a severe sunburn at any point in time. But I just saw, during Ryan O'Hearn's 10 RBI game last night, I noticed there was a whole section at PNC Park in Pittsburgh, tarps off. I just, whose idea was it? Hey, section full of dudes, let's all take our shirts off. Chris Mack with you on Westwood One Sports, in for Nick Kostos today here on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. And there's baseball, there's Wimbledon, there's Summer League, there's WNBA, Caitlin Clark is back tonight, World Cup, a million things that you may want to bet on inside your BetMGM app. I'll give you one in particular in just a second. But the way to do it right now is an Any Sport Parlay Boost token. Use that inside your BetMGM app today. Add a parlay wager to your bet slip, Any Sports. Activate the token. If you win your wager that was made with the token, you receive extra winnings. Bang, just like that. All inside your BetMGM app today. Download it and make it legendary. Please gamble responsibly. If I asked you, which starting pitcher in Major League Baseball since the beginning of May has the highest K per 9 rate, who would you say it is? Not Jacob Mizorowski. Dylan Cease. 13.4 strikeouts per 9 innings since the beginning of May. It's best in baseball. He's on the Hill this afternoon in San Francisco for the Blue Jays. This is for you, Bill in Toronto. His K-prop today lined at 7.5, and it's plus money on the over. He struck out at least 7 in each of his last 10 starts. The only 2 times he did not get to more than 7, he still hit right there. So close. So 8 times out of his last 10 starts going back to May 1st, he struck out at least 7. And he's eclipsed today's over. So I'll be taking Dylan Cease over 7.5 Ks at BetMGM at plus 110. Yes, plus money. Lots of baseball today. Bill in Toronto will forever catch strays, Laura. He deserves it. I just really hope that Bill didn't give up on us after the complaint call. You know what I mean? Like, I would hate to think that at this point, Bill in Toronto isn't hearing all of this. I almost consider him a member of the show at this point. I'm not even an official member of the show. I'm just the backup quarterback here. But Bill in Toronto, we're thinking of you. And we appreciate your service. All right, before I wrap up here and get you the 3 biggest moments of the day, I said it to everyone on the crew during the break. Having a chance to fill in for Nick over the last week and a half or so, when I have, has been a joy. To all of you listening, watching on YouTube, youtube.com/@thekostos. John Jastrzemski will be in tomorrow. And I'm sure I'll fill in again for Nick very, very soon. In fact, as soon as I get back from vacation, I believe I'm filling in for him at least one day that week. So this isn't goodbye. This is just see you later. Seriously, to everybody on the crew, great job. Laura, Dan, Mike, Kenny, Tyler, Bill, you're all fantastic. Love working with you, but I love laying on the beach more. All that being said, before I catch that 6:30 a.m. flight tomorrow, I got to get you today's 3 best moments of the show. It's our 3 stars. Let's go.
3.
Swing and a miss. He just matched his career high. 14 strikeouts through 7 innings for Zach Wheeler.
Why is this man not on the All-Star team? What are we doing? Seriously. Zach Wheeler is having a season. 9-1 after last night. 14 strikeouts in 7 innings for the Phils. Just 10 months removed from thoracic outlet surgery, which again, much like I like to pretend I know what I'm doing when I pantomime playing the drums or the piano, I have no idea what goes into thoracic outlet surgery. I just know it's a big deal for a guy to come back in less than a year and be pitching the way Zach Wheeler is. And the fact that he's been snubbed from the All-Star game is absolutely ludicrous. In his team's hometown, his home ballpark at Citizens Bank Park in Philly. In 6 days, they'll play the All-Star game. And that guy isn't going to be there? What the hell are we doing? Even Bill from Toronto thinks that's stupid. And he voted all Blue Jays on his ballot. Number 2.
Team that made a big stride in the transfer portal. I don't know if it's going to be playoff stride, but a big stride, you'd have to look at Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State's a team that last year was just absolutely miserable. They had one of the worst seasons ever. They're at 1-11. So I think you'll see a big jump from them.
I love Phil Steele's college football preview magazine. I cannot wait to pick it up later today. And Phil, earlier, I asked him about a team that did well in the portal and could make a big leap this year. And he cited the Oklahoma State / North Texas Cowboys because like 30 guys have transferred from North Texas to Oklahoma State, including a name you're going to want to remember come next spring when it's time for the NFL draft in D.C., Drew Mestamaker, who was the starting quarterback at North Texas last year and will be at Oklahoma State this year. Great insight from Phil. Again, you know how to get us in podcast form. Go search You Better You Bet wherever you get your podcasts and listen to the Phil Steele segment. Excellent insight from a guy who puts together the Bible of college football every summer. And our number 1 star.
1.
Why is Philly much better than Boston, than Cleveland? I don't know that I can trust Joel Embiid to be healthy come playoff time. And if Joel Embiid isn't healthy, they don't really have much in the front court, right? Like if James Harden's your 4th best player, I don't know. That's a team that represents a pretty high offensive ceiling.
Danny Parkins of First Things First on FS1. Check it out today and every day at 5 Eastern. Pushing back on my notion that the 76ers are the only place to go for LeBron James if he really wants to chase down the Larry O'Brien in his final season in the NBA. I stand by my assertion. I can't get on board with a Cavs team that has James Harden somewhere in its orbit, even if it's a $45 million 6th man. It's a great argument by Danny. And I think if that were what they had in Cleveland going into this year, you're talking Mitchell, Mobley, Allen, Harden, James. It's a really good team. But it's also a team that got swept out of the playoffs pretty unceremoniously by the Knicks. And I think the Eastern Conference Finals would be their absolute ceiling. So if I'm LeBron, I don't look at the Cavs as a title contender, as much as Danny made a great case for them there. I look at LeBron and say, Philly, my friend, that's your best shot at winning a title. With, yes, Embiid and will he be healthy or not for the playoffs, but Edgecombe, Maxey, and now Jaylen Brown as well. There are your 3 stars of the day. There's more Wimbledon to keep an eye on. There's more World Cup to keep an eye on. There's baseball approaching the All-Star break. The NBA offseason, obviously, with LeBron watch on. A million things going on. The best place to keep up with all of it right here on Westwood One Sports and inside your Westwood One Sports app. Download it today if you haven't yet. Perfect for if you're like me, you're going on vacation. You don't want to have to search for the station, depending on where you're at. It's right there in the app or inside your Odyssey app as well, AUDACY, where you can rewind. Like I said, you can download the segments as podcasts to get all the best of not just You Better You Bet, but the entire Westwood One Sports network. We got you all summer long, whether you're laying on a beach or hiding in a cubicle or digging a ditch or somewhere in between. this is the best place to be, and always live across North America on Sirius XM Channel 375. I will talk to Yin's guys soon enough. Had to drop a little Pittsburgh in for you. I will talk to you soon enough. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe. Enjoy. Continue enjoying your summer. And keep it right here. Black and Abdallah up next, right here on Westwood One Sports.